Should really put in a really lame cannibalism, animal rights, vegan pun in there someplace, but it's not coming to me. Hello everyone, Britton here, also known as Samoki Dude, and today it will be a bit of a different type of video because instead of merely reviewing the book that I'll be covering, I wanted to discuss some of the themes I noticed from this certain book that I read. And the book I'm talking about today is Tender is the Flesh by Agustina Bazterrica, who I probably butchered that name. If she ever watches this, she probably never will, but if she does, I apologize if I got your name wrong. My friend Jason from Jason Furman recommended this book to me, and I was intrigued by the concept of this book. I saw this video. I had heard about this book here and there. I remember Criminali did a video about it a few years ago, but I didn't really know about it. I didn't really get interested to read it until I saw Jason's video about it, and I thought it was a very good review. I'll link it down below if you guys want to watch it. It's very well done. But Tender is the Flesh is a novel that really surprised me. I mean, obviously it disgusted me because, you know, it was, you know, there's a lot of, it's a patient read. You have to be very patient with it. You have to be tolerant of a lot of horrible things that happen in this. And it is not a book for the lighthearted. I was intrigued by the concept of this book because, you know, I'm a concept guy, and despite the utter absurdity of the concept of this book, I was intrigued. I was wondering how she would do it. And she made this book into such a way where this could happen. And I think that's probably the most frightening thing about it. But I think Tender is the Flesh is one of the most frightening books that I've ever read about the concept of banality of evil, which is the topic I'm going to be discussing today. So, what is the banality of evil for people who don't know? Well, it's a concept that was initially coined by Hannah Arendt. She was a philosopher, public intellectual, and journalist who brought this up in her essay, Eichmann in Jerusalem, which is a pretty good read, by the way, if you ever do get the chance of reading it. She was covering the trial of Nazi officers such as Adolf Eichmann, who had been involved in the Holocaust. Now, when she had covered them, she had expected to see men who were vile, sadistic, those who were proud and unrepentant of what they did. But instead what she saw were these dull, average, and frighteningly normal people. People who were concerned about their lives, their jobs, and they basically could be anybody. And they never really thought about what they were doing, except that rather than be because of peer pressure or because of everyone else is doing it, so I should do it. There was a certain level of thoughtlessness that went on into what allowed these evil things to happen. What makes this concept especially frightening is that it wasn't the wickedness of a select few that allowed these evils to take place, but it was the thoughtlessness of average people which allowed these evil people to do what they did. Tender is the Flesh really takes this concept and kind of amps it up to 11. I mean, this novel is about a world where a mysterious virus, allegedly, has caused all of the animals to become poison. It's caused their meat to become poisonous to human beings. So, instead of going with veganism, as you do, like normal people, they decide that cannibalism will be the thing. Cannibalism all the way. And now human beings are cattle, though they don't call them that anymore. Our main character is Marcos, who is not particularly evil or sadistic. In fact, he's normal. He has an average life. He has an average job. Well, not really an average job. He helps to kill humans. But he's just a regular guy. And he deals with his own issues, of course. His wife has left him. His father is struggling with dementia. And he can't quite shut off his conscience. Even though he is constant... And it doesn't help that he's constantly smacked in the face with all of the evil stuff that he is complicit in every day of his life. This guy doesn't feel like... It's not unlike any friend you would meet at a bar, or even a family member, or somebody you would run into and cross in the street. Cruelty has become a well-ordered business in this world. And as I said before, his job just always seems to constantly smack him in the face with just how evil all of this is. It just feels wrong. He's constantly struggling throughout this novel, but yet he keeps going. Is it because he enjoys it or takes some sort of sadistic glee out of the whole thing? No. It's because it's easy and it's become normalized. I suppose it's what's the most frightening thing about this novel is how normalized it is and how easy it is to dehumanize your fellow man. The cold, clinical way of the prose really made me think about how easy it is to dehumanize people once you have some sort of need for them, of course. I thought of things such as Nazi Germany, Soviet Russia, and sometimes I've wondered how could people just stand by and allow that stuff to happen. Well, like I said earlier, it's because they don't really think about it. Cruelty has become the norm, as I said before, and there are graphic depictions of cruelty against people and animals with the casualness of a news report. As I mentioned before, the prose in this is very cold, clinical, straight to the point of the issue. As an article on Tor pointed out, which I will link below, what makes evil triumph is not only good men doing nothing, but average people being convinced that this thing, this evil thing that's happening, isn't quite as bad as the alternative. I mean, think of Nazi Germany, for instance. They genuinely thought that there was a massive conspiracy, that there was these Jewish people just conspiring to take them out. It's insane, obviously, but people were buying into this, rather than it be because they genuinely believed this, or because they were just going along. Bazterrica isn't subtle with her commentary about the banality of evil, but it never really feels like she's preaching at you. Now, there are moments where she basically smacks you in the face with the message, like there's one moment when Marcos finally gets after his sister, because his sister is just, God, terrible person. And he just basically says, why don't you think for yourselves? I mean, he sees a head, but then we see that Marcos is just as complicit. Really, he has no high road to stand on. He's just as complicit as everybody else is. Bazterrica wisely shows you the choices their characters make and allows you to come to your own conclusions about them. And that is the essence of what makes compelling storytelling at the end of the day. Tender as the Flesh is at once a scathing satire of capitalism and our animal packaging system, if you didn't get that already. But it's also a deeply disturbing look into how evil flourishes when average people do nothing. It's disturbing, to say the least. I can't even say enough. I was reminded of the novel. I did have some issues with this novel, particularly towards the end. It worked for what she was going for, about the banality of evil and how even the qualms Marcos might have, he is still complicit in this. He is still technically evil because he's allowing this stuff to happen. But I don't know. It just felt like it just kind of came out of there. Now, I know Marcos is kind of supposed to be an impulsive character, but that kind of switch just felt odd. Consider something like Gone to See the Riverman, for instance, which kind of goes for a similar idea of what this novel's going for. Not necessarily similar themes, but a similar effect, where you go through this story, you start feeling for this person, and then the author takes the rug out under you and shows you the far harsher truth of the whole matter. I found that Gone to See the Riverman was more built up. It felt like there was more of a arc in the story, while with Marcos it almost felt like a random shift. Now, I could read this book again and see that, and to be fair, it's not like it wasn't built up. There is this sense that Marcos never truly feels that the lady he ends up getting, the pet, Jasmine, ever really feels like a human being to him. It's just, a means to an end. But, again, it just never really felt like... It never really felt like there was an arc there. And it kind of felt like when the rug was taken out from under me, it didn't impact me as deeply as something like Gone to See the Riverman did. But that's just me. And I'm sure Jason, who has also read both books, because I got him to read Going to See the Riverman, will probably comment down below saying I'm wrong and blah, blah, blah. But this will actually be sort of a two-part video. Tomorrow I'm going to be discussing with Jason about this book in more detail. It's going to be more of a spoiler discussion, so probably read this book first and then go watch the discussion. But yeah, Jason and I are going to talk about it. We're going to go into more detail, because here I'm trying to keep things vague, even though this was more of a discussion / review. Tinder is the discussion is going to be more about like discussing the themes and the story and how Bazterrica told it. So yeah, should be fun. I'm very excited to do that, and I think you guys should go read Tender is the Flesh. I think it is a novel that'll make people deeply uncomfortable, but I think it's a novel that should be read. Definitely made me uncomfortable, especially towards the latter part of the novel, as Marcos becomes a much more morally questionable character. So yeah, I think really that's all I gotta say for today. I'm Britton. You can go check me out on Twitter. You can find me on Goodreads and Letterboxd, where I write reviews, which are probably more coherent than the one you just heard right now. And you can also find me on Discord if you want to come talk to me on there. Feel free. I love to hear from you guys. And check out Tender is the Flesh. I thought it was a pretty good book. I think that's all I got to say for now. I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.